श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भुरिदा जनाः. So we are discussing the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna is in Ram's house, Ramchandra Datta, and he is with devotees. The date is Sunday, 28th September, and it is a Mahastami day. Sri Ramakrishna has come to Calcutta to have the darshan of image of the goddess in Ram's house. The Sharadiya festival of Durga is being celebrated in other saint's house. This is not Ram's house. Before he came to Ram's house, he had been to other saint's house. We discussed about that last time. That other saint's house was one of the few homes where Sri Ramakrishna used to frequent. Of course, not as frequently as he did Balram's house. Balram's house was his favorite place. Whenever he visited Calcutta from Dakshineshwar, he would go to Balram's house in Bagh Bazaar, and that is the center of the Ramakrishna mission now. And this house was preferred by him because he believed that this is one family among a few families in Calcutta where everybody in the family was highly spiritual, where equally or more or less everybody was spiritual. So there were no discordant voices in Balram's house. And he said how rare it is that the whole entire family is so devoted to God. So he said, we can just count them on your fingers. In the whole of Calcutta, he said, wherever you go, you'll find some of the family members having different opinions. And because of this divergence of views, there is so much of misunderstanding, there's so much of ill feeling, and so much so that Master Masha himself had such a family and he was suffering because of that. In fact, he even wanted to leave the home and in the worst case even commit suicide. That was the condition. When there are divergent people holding divergent views, stay within the same family. But Ram and then other saint was another family, and Sri Ramakrishna could intuitively understand, or maybe spiritually could see through the entire personality, can judge the vibrations of a particular place. Otherwise, it is so rare that he would visit, not stay, but visit householder's place where a lot of worldly talk is going on. He would not frequent such places. So other saint had that privilege, and other was very devoted to Sri Ramakrishna as well. So Sri Ramakrishna, I think he has visited at least 10 times, which has been recorded. So that means other saint was one of the devotees whom Sri Ramakrishna considered as someone in whose house he could easily go, and he also very humbly used to request him to come and invite. That was one of the conditions. Sri Ramakrishna did not just go to visit one particular family. Whenever he visited, he would encourage them to invite people who used to stay nearby at least, who could not afford to come to Dakshineshwar every week. So this gave him an opportunity to interact with those devotees who did not have the wherewithal to pay the carriage fare, which was very expensive. All could not afford that. And he was so particular about these devotees that he used to tell, please do invite such and Subodhananda, there was one Chunilal Ghosh. So he would tell Balram, please invite Chunilal. He stays very near your house and he cannot come often to Dakshineshwar, but he is a devoted person. And even if he somehow managed to get a lift, somebody would bring him along. Sri Ramakrishna would tell them, don't forget to take him back. He is so devoted, he likes to come here, but he can't afford. He has to walk all the way, which is very difficult. So also, Other Saints house also was a very big house. It is still there in Bagh Bazaar. And that is another house where other people who were staying near, could get an opportunity to enjoy Sri Ramakrishna's satsang. So we find Thakur is invited for 3 days, normally Shashti, Saptami, Ashtami, or maybe Saptami, Ashtami, Navami, whatever it may be, he has been invited for 3 days. And having had the darshan of the image at others' house, he then goes to Ram's house. First he goes to Ram's other's house, and from there he is supposed to go to Ram's house. Many devotees, there's a list of devotees because that is what M used to normally do. Make a note of all the devotees whom he knew, obviously, and write their names. That's how precise and perfect this recording is. He was very keen, and he, if possible, he would even introduce, if the new names appeared, he would explain who had come and who were they, if the common names would be repeated, but those who are not common, he would try to explain who they were. So many devotees, including Vijay, Kedar, Ram, Surendra, Chunilal, Narendra, Niranjan, Narayan, Harish, Baburam, and M. These were the people who were present. Balram and Rakhal are in Vrindavan. So Sri Ramakrishna is smiling at Vijay and Kedar. They are obviously present there. And he's telling something wonderful. He says, a nice meeting since you both have the same bhava, spiritual mood. And he's telling Vijay, well, what about Shivnath? Did you meet him? I mean, Vijay and Kedar were highly devoted, of a devotional temperament. So that's why he is happy that people of the same bhava or the same inclination or the same attitude towards spirituality are there. It becomes easy to guide if people of the same attitude, of the same bhava or the same attitude towards God are present and they come together. Vijay says, yes sir, he knows about your going to his house. I have not seen him, but I sent word to him. He knows about it. Sri Ramakrishna had gone to Shivnath's house to see him, but because of the latter's busy schedule, he had not been at home. Vijay had told him about the visit later. So he had been there, and Sri Ramakrishna was humble enough, though all of them considered him to be very respectful, like their own guru, like a teacher, but he knew that they were all such busy people. Most of them used to work for Brahmo Samaj. Obviously, Shivnath Shastri was one of the preachers. So naturally, he had his own commitments. But still, Sri Ramakrishna made a point, or even if he could not go, he would ask for someone to remind Shivnath or Vijay Krishna Goswami, in whom he saw some spiritual stuff, to either see him when he goes to Calcutta, or he would ask them to come to Dakshineshwar. So Sri Ramakrishna is now, to Vijay and others who have now come here, he says, I had 4 desires in my mind. Now, these are very strange desires, which is very difficult to explain. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that most of his desires were connected with some kind of spirituality. As you know, Holy Mother used to say, he did not practice different religions with the purpose of showing a harmony between them. That was a byproduct, you can say. But his main intention was to enjoy the spiritual practices of different religions. Like a glutton, as he himself said, he was a spiritual glutton. He wanted to eat as many dishes as possible in the spiritual field. Enjoy the taste of God in different ways. Because devotees, over a period of time, devotees, jnanis, different upasakas, sadhakas, have been worshipping God in their own way. And each one of them had unique ecstatic experiences, especially those who are following the path of bhakti. No matter which sect they followed, each one enjoyed a divine experience after long sadhana. Of course, it was not so easy. It is not so easy to have a genuine spiritual experience which gives ecstasy. So he says that he wanted to practice some of the spiritual disciplines which might appear to be rather strange to some people. So, but he had some other trivial desires also. Trivial in the sense we all know that when he went into samadhi, he would instruct his Hriday or other sevaks there or other disciples to just remind him of drinking water or eating some sandesh, some trivial desire which would bring his mind down from that plane. It's not a desire which will make him bound to the world, but a simple desire like he wanted to eat fish curry with eggplant. So this is a very simple desire. Maybe after eating that he will never have the desire to eat it again, but still he said, I had 4 desires. He's very openly or very in a very frank way he is telling, some desires came to my mind. One is, I might eat fish curry with eggplant. And we all know, whenever Sri Ramakrishna had something in mind, because he was so truthful, whatever appeared in his mind or whatever came to his mind, he would speak it out and he had to act. So most of the things would turn true. So he was very careful about what he said. So he just had, if he has a desire that he should eat fish curry with eggplant, some divine providence would make some arrangement so that it arrives. The second was a casual wish that he should meet Shivnath. All of a sudden he felt like meeting Shivnath. 3, the third desire he had was that I might see devotees repeating the name of Hari on their rosaries. So these are all not their noble desires, but suddenly he would get these desires. He has got this desire. And lastly, which is very strange, he had a strange desire because he had heard that on the Ashtami day, the day of worship of the Divine Mother, there were some worshippers or practitioners who worshipped the Divine Mother in the left-handed way, which Swami Vivekananda did not like. But Sri Ramakrishna forbade him to criticize them. He said, maybe that is a path, who knows? It may not be a good path, it may not be a noble path. But he said, every house has a back door or has a door through which, in those days, very big houses, all the dirt and all the things would be taken out, not through the main door, but through the back door. And it was meant for that only. So naturally, he said, who knows, every house has a back door. Though it may not be a good idea to enter through that, but still people can realize God if they are sincere. So one of the tantric practices, there are 64 tantras, as you all know. One of the practices is drinking wine on Ashtami day. So wine is considered, it would be offered to the Divine Mother, and that would be taken as prasad. You will find such traditions in Shiva worship also. They will drink some kind of intoxicant known as bhang on Shivratri day. Though people may not like this kind of uh, the intake of such toxic material or intoxicants. But he had that desire that I might see and salute the tantric practitioners. Not that he wanted to drink. He was curious to see how they meditate on God by consuming wine on Ashtami day. That is what he had heard they do. So he wanted to see and salute them and give their respects to them. Of course, many devotees who used to come would not agree with this. How can you respect such people? They are superstitious, and they would have even condemned it. But these are the 4 desires which he expresses. So this is just a casual statement he made. But Narendra is seated in front of Sri Ramakrishna. Now here, Master Masha is introducing Narendra. He says he is 22 or 23 years old. While talking, Thakur glances at him. He immediately stands up and goes into Samadhi. Placing his foot on Narendra's knee, he stands there in Samadhi. He is totally unconscious of the outside world. His eyes are fixed. Now this is a record of what really happened in front of others, in front of everybody, all these devotees whose names are mentioned here. Sri Ramakrishna literally is transmitting power to Narendra by touching his feet, placing his foot on Narendra's knee and going into Samadhi. What happened, what transpired, M is not aware, but he has recorded that this is what happened. When he saw Narendra, he went into ecstasy. Perhaps he recognized his spiritual potential. And M is perhaps seeing him for the first time because he says he is hardly 22, he is not very much acquainted with him. Then the next topic is God. Is he God personal or impersonal? Satchidananda and Karananandamayi. These are the 2 words he is trying to explain. Karan Anandamayi. Karana means 2. One is causal. You see, a universe can be divided into 3. The gross Sthula Jagat or Sthula Sharira, which is a part of the Sthula Jagat, the gross universe. The Sukshma Jagat, mind and all the subtle things, it is known as Sukshma Jagat or Sukshma Sharira. Then comes Karana Sharira. So it is very surprising that in the tantric way of worship, they call wine or karana. That is also known as karana. Karana has two meanings. One, it can mean wine in Bengali, or karana can mean the cause. So for them, taking this wine as prasad and meditating on the glory of the Divine Mother, that takes them to ecstasy. Maybe that was a practice which was not, which was considered to be superstition by many. But they call it karana, they don't call it wine, or it is the same name as the cause. So karana anandamayi, anandamayi means one who gives joy. One who gives joy through the medium of karana, that literally speaking, then all drunkards must be categorized as karana, belonging to this karana ananda, they must be enjoying. But that is not the meaning. By partaking of karana, the tantrics set their mind on the Divine Mother and then lose their consciousness in divine ecstasy. They don't get stuck in the gross joy of drinking. They just take it as a sample, and that joy takes them to the highest joy. So, God is also known as Karan Anandamayi. Now, he is explaining. Karan Anandamayi means one, the Divine Mother who gives the divine joy of Karana. Karana means you become, as Sri Ramakrishna many times Girish Ghosh, because Girish Ghosh was a drunkard. So he knew the ecstasy of drinking. He used to drink a lot of wine. When he saw Sri Ramakrishna in that state, Karanananda state, he felt that he must have drunk a stronger wine than him. And even asked him the question, what wine have you drunk? That you are behaving like you are in ecstasy. Even the strongest wine or the strongest drink would not give me that kind of state. I want to know that if there is a higher, more toxic wine, intoxicant, that you have got hold of. Then Sri Ramakrishna says it is the karana, or it is the intoxicant of Divine Mother's name. Her name itself intoxicates me. I don't have to take karana to get intoxicated. I get intoxicated just by the name of the Divine Mother, who is Karana Ananda Mayi, one who causes Karana Ananda. So then he says, he repeats the name of God. He says, shall I say Sachidananda? Sachidananda. Sachidananda is in that divine mood. He has just come down from Samadhi and now he is trying to, he is repeating to everyone, Sachidananda, Sachidananda, Sachidananda. Then he says, no, 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 no. He himself corrects himself. He said, today is Mother's Day. It's Ashtami. He has come to have Mother's darshan. So today is Mother's Day. She is the source of divine intoxication. So I'll not say Sachidananda anymore. Today I will say Karananandamayi, Karananandamayi. Then he says it's not good to do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti. That is the different sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. So he says you can't stay on one note all the time. You have to change the notes. A good music implies that you keep changing the notes. So I don't like to just meditate on Sachidananda. Now and then I'll meditate on her as the Divine Mother or as a divine child, the different bhavas. They are like the different notes, and all the notes together make a great music. So he says, I would rather stay note below. I can't stay long on ni, that is Sachidananda. I can't meditate. Means he is giving a hint to most of the people that one can't live on that non-dual plane for long. one has to come down a note lower. And that is where Satchidananda becomes Karananandam Mahi. I would rather stay a note below, not on ni. I can't stay long there. Now, he is explaining, he is continuing the sentence saying gross, subtle, causal, sthula, sukshma, karana. And then he says Mahakarana, the great cause. It is known as Mahakarana. Sthula, Sukshma, these are, Mahakarana is the great cause, the universal cause. When one reaches the great cause, see, we can reach our causal body. In fact, we do reach our causal body where everything merges into the cause is reached every day in sleep, though it is out of ignorance. So also individual can now and then merge into that great Karana Sharira. But here he is talking of the Mahakarana, the great cause. When one reaches that great cause, it is all quiet. Our drama in this world continues because each one has his own Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira and Karana Sharira. Now all the jivas, if you can imagine, all these jivas are part of that great Karana. But when they are individual, they quarrel with each other, they deal with each other, they love each other. So there are a lot of cause and effects which we see in a human life at a jiva level, at a limited level. But when you merge that Karana, your Karana Sharira, into the Mahakarana, the universal cause, it may be difficult to understand, but this is what happens. When our causes, how can you get rid of the cause and effect? What do you mean by mukti? What do we mean by mukti? Mukti means this, because every cause will have an effect. Every effect again has a cause. So the karma takes us round and round and round of this, in the cycle of life, then birth, life, and then death. One cycle is over. After death, again you are born. So according to the Hindu philosophy, according to Vedanta, according to Tantra, according to all the systems of philosophy, including Buddhism, this Mahakarana, we are part of the Mahakarana till we reach or identify the Karana Sharira of ours with the Mahakarana, there is no mukti. Because that individual Karana Sharira, when the gross body is destroyed, some of the Sukshma body is also destroyed. But the Karana, the samskaras, everything, the karma, everything is stored. It is carried on to the next birth. So we are not liberated. Why? Because this Karana Sharira, though it is part of the Mahakarana, the universal cause, we are not feeling it. As Sri Ramakrishna used to give that example, the small waves and the big waves, they interact with each other. The small wave thinks that the big wave is going to just overwhelm and destroy the small wave. So it is frightened. But when they consider themselves as the ocean, then there is no question of big wave or small wave. Whether you are a big wave, whether you are a small wave, you are all part of the ocean. So also the cause, our limited identification with our body, our Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and our little Karana Sharira, as long as that identification is there, we have to be born again and suffer misery. So Sri Ramakrishna says, there is a stage, the stage comes in one's life when you reach that ultimate Karana, that great cause, and then everything is quiet. One cannot utter a single word. What is there to utter? You can't explain that realization because the mind itself doesn't function. It is only when we are limited, when we have a limited idea of the great cause, then we start expressing it. So what Brahman is, according to Swami, according to Thakur, or according to Vedanta, cannot be told, because the moment it is told, it is restricted, it is limited. Then he says, only Ishwar Kotis, these are the special avatars or great people, somehow they can return from the state of Mahakarana. Most of the ordinary people, for them the goal is mukti, just reach the Mahakarana, the great cause. Then what will be the cause for your birth? No, absolutely no. So you just get merged. But incarnations come, Sri Ramakrishna says, they fall into a different category. They can even return without, even after merging into Mahakarana, they retain that identity just to show to the world how to reach that Mahakarana. They are known as, the incarnations of God are known as Ishwar Kotis. They ascend, they ascend through their spiritual practices to these high spiritual states and then come down at will. They climb up onto the roof and come down again by the stairs, or to move around on the lower floors. This is nothing but involution and evolution. Now you see, that is the word which was known in Indian philosophy. We just don't believe in eternal evolution. As Darwin said, man has evolved from amoeba, he goes on evolving into better and better and better and better human being. And he goes on evolving. No. According to Hindu philosophy, this evolution presupposes involution. If after evolution, after you evolve to a certain state, you again go back to the original state, and then from there come back again. So it's a cyclical procession of involution, and involution means going back to the primal state. And from there again coming, the whole universe, the Karana, Mahakarana comes out and displays its power, Shakti, and then the Shakti herself withdraws it and goes back to Brahman from where it has come. So you have on one side Purusha, the Sankhya philosophy believes in that there is a Purusha, the Prakriti which is known as Avyakta Prakriti. There is a Vyakta Prakriti, Avyakta. Just before it starts manifesting itself, which is known as Vyakta. So there is this Prakriti which is potential. It has not yet become kinetic energy. It has the potential to create, but it has not started creation. So the whole sadhana is to go back, because everything moves in a cycle. If there was Brahman alone is real, that Brahman with the power of avidya maya, or that is what Shakti means, manifest this universe. Avyakta Prakriti. First, the Prakriti is not Vyakta, not manifest, but the same Prakriti becomes Avyakta, Vyakta, and then we see it as Prakriti, and then we struggle to go out of that and again go back to the original Prakriti. So it is like climbing through one staircase, going to the roof and then coming back. That is what Ishwar Kotis do. They can at will go to the highest level, then come down to the descend, or the evolution and involution process goes following each other in their case. Now, Sri Ramakrishna says there is a 7-storied building. Imagine there is a 7-storied building. Actually, they correspond to the 7 planes of Vedic. He is referring to that Sapta Bhumi. Bhumi means 7 levels at which human beings can spiritually evolve. He says some have access to the outer apartments only, but a prince or a king can roam about on all the 7 stories. But if you are a limited owner, a limited part, maybe first, second, third, or whichever floor, whichever story belongs to you, you can have access only up to that. But the owner or the prince or the king of that, the owner of that building. He can go anywhere because it is his property, his house. He can roam about on all the 7 stories. So he is giving a hint that for incarnation, everything is possible because they voluntarily can show that they are bound. They can be on the first level, second level, third level, and the spiritual level they can increase or demonstrate by showing that it can be increased through sadhana, through upasana, to just motivate people. Otherwise, if they don't come down a few levels, how can one recognize an avatara? If he's always one with Brahman, then it's difficult. People have to get inspiration to see that how sadhana is done, how one goes from one story to another and manages to reach the highest. So that kind of faith and that kind of explanation is given by Vedanta to explain this. And Sri Ramakrishna gives this example. He says, he gives another beautiful example. He says there is a kind of firework rocket that emits flower-like sparks. It first throws out sparks. Sri Ramakrishna has observed this during Diwali, perhaps most of these crackers which people burn, he has seen them. So he says, first it throws sparks of one particular color, then it throws sparks of another color. So also the Prakriti manifests itself in the 7 layers. But it never stops emitting different patterns of different sparks. And there is another kind of rocket, which if you light, shoots up for a while with a hissing sound and falls down. So he is now comparing these 2 types of crackers. See, even these crackers he is using to illustrate the difference between great spiritual people and ordinary people. He says if an ordinary person goes up after practicing disciplines, he cannot come back to tell his experience. The Jiva Koti individual soul may attain samadhi after practicing rigorous spiritual disciplines, but he cannot come back from this samadhi and tell his experiences. So he is hinting that it is the reason why I come back again and again to tell you, because it's possible for incarnations to do that. It's not possible for ordinary man. Just as he compared, some crackers go on giving different colors, showing, demonstrating different states of mind. But some crackers can't do that. Then he says, there is a class of Nitya Siddhas. Nitya Siddhas are jivas who are perfect from birth. They seek the Lord from birth and nothing worldly ever attracts them. So these are Nitya Siddhas like Shuka. Vyasa had to struggle. But his son Shuka, they say, first of all, he did not want to be born. He had done so much of spiritual practice. He had a purpose for which he had to be born, and he fulfilled that. But they say when he was in his mother's womb, he refused to be born for several, it's an exaggeration, but they say several years. He grew up within the womb, but he said, no, I am not going to be born. He did not want to be born. So he was perfect before birth. And finally, when the reason why he should be born was explained, he is born, but then right from birth, he decides to follow the spiritual path. His father is chasing him, trying to convince him to enter into the world, but he is just walking away as soon as he is born. That's how the story goes, that he is not attracted to anything in this world. Then Sri Ramakrishna is giving the example of a Homa bird. Now this example he also gave when he pointed to Narendra. He said he is like that Homa bird. So let us see what that example is. There is a mention of a Homa bird in Vedas. That bird flies very high in the sky. It rarely comes down. So when the egg hatches, they say, of course it may not be literally true. We do not know what botanists or zoologists say about this, but it is believed in Hinduism that when the bird who lives high in the sky, the Homa bird, the mother, when it gives, when the egg hatches, the chick falls towards the earth. It lays its eggs in the space. That's what they say. And as soon as the eggs are laid, they start cracking, and the chick comes out of, even before it falls to the ground. That is what they say, but it's just giving an example. The chick is falling towards the earth because it has hatched in the midair. It's like somebody being born when the plane is crashing and the child has survived, but it is just, so it is something like that. And this chick is falling towards the earth, but fortunately, the chick has wings. But normally, in most other birds, except the Homa bird, the birds have to be taught. They will be in the nest for such a long time, and the mother has to teach them to. Of course, they do it on their own, but they have to be encouraged to fly away from the nest. Otherwise, they will stay there because they are fed by their mother. Whereas here, the mother, after laying the eggs, just forgets because the chick will be dashed to pieces. If it falls down, it knows it will not survive. So this survival instinct makes it flap its wings. So he says it keeps falling for so many hours, days, and because it flies so high, that's what Sri Ramakrishna says. This is the example. So he says the eyes are closed, but when it is nearing the earth, suddenly the chick opens its eyes, the young one of the Homa bird. Then it realizes, oh, if I go further down, I'll smash to pieces. And it looks up, and with the same eyes, he looks down and looks up and says, oh, no, I should follow my mother and fly like her. And then the young one, the chick, starts flapping the wings, and suddenly it starts to learn flying. So as soon as when it realizes that it's going to die, so these Nitya Siddhas are like that. They, though they are born like ordinary people like us, they know that this world is going to, they are like the slippery fish, Thakur used to say. The fish is so slippery that when you try to catch that fish, it escapes. So these Nitya Siddhas are like that. They don't want to get bound. They somehow manage to slip out. And the bird, in this case, the chick shrieks, the young one of the Homa bird, and immediately darts upward towards its mother. So falling to the earth means sure death. So that survival instinct makes it fly. So also Sri Ramakrishna is trying to say that Nitya Siddhas, the moment they are born, they are restless to go back to the state from where they came. They don't want to enjoy this world. They don't want to get bound. There's so much of fear like Shukadeva had. I don't want to get, Sri Ramakrishna is to give the example, falling into the pit full of snakes and cobras and other venomous scorpions. He says a person who feels that he is bound, feels like that. He doesn't want to get entangled because he knows what will ultimately happen is the snakes will, he doesn't want to fall into that pit. He's afraid, he's as afraid, or he's afraid of a whirlpool. A person who knows that everything gets sucked in a whirlpool, he never goes near it. So also they think the world is like a whirlpool. These are the graphic examples Sri Ramakrishna gives. So also he gives this example where the chick realizes that if I don't start taking an upward turn and start flying, That means if I don't start sadhana now, the only way is that we will be destroying ourselves. Then, but for that they require an inspiration. Who is the inspiration? In this case, the Guru is the mother who has given birth, the divine mother, who inspires the chick not to get crashed and destroyed, but attempt to fly, flap your wings and go back. And its eyes are always, Sri Ramakrishna says, pointing towards the mother, and it sees nothing but the mother. That is Guru Bhakti. And then you start flapping the wings and just imitate what or do what your Guru has told, what your mother has told, what the divine tells you. The ways of the world can destroy you. So if you want to protect yourself, you have to flap your wings and soar upward. So those who accompany an incarnation of God are either like this Nitya Siddhas. These Nitya Siddhas are like the chicks. They come only with incarnations. Or it is their last birth. So I'll conclude now. Yes. If there are some questions, or we can just meditate on these similes. These are the things we should meditate upon. Yeah, there is one question. So there is a question here. Should one develop a particular bhava, attitudes to a Thakur for a time and stick with it, or can the attitude be changed frequently? Sri Ramakrishna used to say, don't be one-sided. As long as the Ishta remains the same, it doesn't matter if you change your attitude. You see, Sri Ramakrishna's life itself is a wonderful example. Sri Ramakrishna himself said, I can't just focus on one note, that is Ni. I want Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Da, all the notes. I wish to play that divine music. So in this case, what really matters is that it's your devotion to Thakur. So your question, whether you should develop a particular attitude is good in the beginning because that intensity is also necessary. If you don't develop one particular attitude, then you will not be intensely devoted in that to Thakur. Once that is attained, then you can maybe try other attitudes, but the focus should be on the Ishta. That is important. Yes. So one cannot change one's, attitude frequently because then that intensity. See, you have to decide if you want to be all inclusive. Then there are so many attitudes which are possible in the path of bhakti. You can enjoy God as mother, God as father, or hold on to one. Sri Ramakrishna, of course, would advise people to have one particular bhava because it takes a long time to establish oneself in one particular attitude. So in the beginning, of course, it is advisable to stick to one particular attitude, but now and then, as part of the Leela Chintana, because the Leela is Sri Krishna can be meditated as the child Sri Krishna, as the Dwarkadhish, the ruler of Dwarka, or as the killer of demons. There are so many roles Krishna played. So certain people would love to worship him in one particular aspect. And sometimes they are fanatic also, that we want to see only the Gopala Krishna, the child Krishna. We are not bothered about the Gita Krishna, where he is riding a chariot. So that is also one way. But Sri Ramakrishna's attitude is, be firm in one attitude, but at the same time, you can enjoy the other attitudes as well. So that's the idea. So changing with a little bit of caution is permitted, because that change should not dilute your attitude. See, if you are not uh, fixed, or maybe if that intensity is not there, that attraction which enables you to be always united with God, always feel the presence of God, if that doesn't happen in somebody's life, then changing attitude may worsen it. In most of the cases, it is so. We like certain aspects, but it is still better than not doing anything. At least the Ishta should not change. The attitude towards Ishta may change, but if the Ishta remains the same, then you take everything as is Leela, as the divine play. That is why we lead the Leela Prasang. Leela Prasang helps us to meditate on the different aspects, the Divya Bhav, the Sadhaka Bhav, Sri Ramakrishna as the Sadhaka, Sri Ramakrishna as a Guru, Sri Ramakrishna as a child, Sri Ramakrishna as the son of Divine Mother. So there are so many aspects on which we need to meditate, but ultimately the essence, and when it comes to real sadhana, it is better to have a particular bhava. Sri Ramakrishna used to mention that as your bhava, so your attainment. So if your bhava is very strong and the attitude is very strong, like Sri Ramakrishna, now and then he would experiment with other bhavas, but his main bhava was, I am the child and the Divine Mother is my mother. So his attitude was like a child to the mother, and he felt that suited him. So no doubt he had other bhavas also in his life, but if you see, he again and again came back to that bhava. So I'll conclude now. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.